Welcome back to Polytiks, your go-to channel for breaking down the hottest political trends and making sense of the chaos. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Today, we're diving into one of the most controversial and costly policy proposals in modern American history: mass deportation. Let's break down the numbers, the logistics, and how it could affect you, the everyday American. The idea of mass deportation gained significant attention during Donald Trump's presidency. The concept is simple in theory: round up all unauthorized immigrants and remove them from the United States. Sounds straightforward, right? But when you start unpacking the sheer scale and cost of such an operation, things get complicated. Fast. Let's start with the numbers. According to the latest estimates, there are about 11 million undocumented immigrants living in the U.S. Some have been here for decades, raising families and contributing to local economies. A policy of mass deportation would mean identifying, apprehending, detaining, and ultimately removing each and every one of them. But how do you even begin to accomplish something of this magnitude? And this isn't a new conversation. The U.S. has wrestled with immigration policies for decades, with each administration bringing its own twist to the debate. The scale of this current proposal, however, is unprecedented in modern history. Let's talk dollars and cents. Experts estimate that mass deportation would cost a staggering $200 to $300 billion. Yes, you heard that right. Billion with a B. This figure includes everything from identifying undocumented immigrants to processing their cases, detaining them, and physically removing them from the country. For example, just the cost of transportation alone, flights, buses, fuel, and staffing, could reach $11 billion. Then there's the expense of expanding detention facilities. The U.S. would need to drastically increase its capacity to house detainees while they await deportation, costing taxpayers tens of billions more. ICE agents, legal fees, administrative costs. The list goes on. Oh, and don't forget, this doesn't even include the indirect costs, like the economic fallout from removing millions of workers and consumers from the economy. We'll get to that part later. And these costs aren't just one-time expenses. Maintaining such a system would demand ongoing funding, potentially turning this policy into a multi-generational financial burden. Now, let's shift gears to logistics. Deporting 11 million people isn't like organizing a big carpool. It's a logistical nightmare. First, you'd need to locate every undocumented immigrant. This would require massive surveillance efforts, workplace raids, and door-to-door checks. Not only is this invasive, but it also raises serious concerns about civil liberties for everyone, citizen and non-citizen alike. Then there's the legal system. Immigration courts are already overwhelmed, with over 1.5 million pending cases. Adding 11 million deportation cases would bring the system to a grinding halt. To speed things up, the government would likely need to hire thousands of additional judges and attorneys. And who pays for all of that? You guessed it, taxpayers. Once cases are processed, you still have to physically deport people. This would mean organizing millions of flights and bus trips. Imagine the logistical planning it takes to fly out an entire city's worth of people, every single week, for years on end. And don't forget the ripple effects on local law enforcement, already stretched thin in many areas. Adding mass deportation efforts to their workload could strain resources further and detract from addressing local crime. The human cost of mass deportation is equally staggering. Families would be torn apart, with parents separated from their U.S.-born children. Entire communities would be destabilized. And the psychological toll on individuals and families both immigrant and citizen, cannot be overstated. It's also worth noting that many undocumented immigrants are deeply woven into the fabric of American society. They are your neighbors, your co-workers, and in some cases, your friends. Removing them en masse would have profound ripple effects on local economies, schools, and even churches. What happens to the US-born children left behind? They face an uncertain future, with many forced into foster care or separated from their siblings. These emotional scars can last a lifetime. Speaking of local economies, let's talk about the economic impact. Undocumented immigrants make up a significant portion of the workforce in industries like agriculture, construction, and hospitality. Removing them would create massive labor shortages, driving up costs for businesses and consumers alike. For instance, the agriculture sector heavily relies on undocumented workers to harvest crops. Without them, we'd see skyrocketing food prices and even shortages. And it's not just agriculture. Construction projects would slow down, hotels and restaurants would struggle to stay open, and everyday goods and services would become more expensive. Economists predict that mass deportation could reduce the US GDP by as much as $1.6 trillion over 20 years. That's trillion with a T. For the average American, that translates to higher prices, fewer jobs, and a weaker economy overall. Additionally, the loss of tax revenue from undocumented immigrants, who currently contribute billions annually, would further strain public services like schools, healthcare, and infrastructure. So, is mass deportation even feasible? Most experts agree, not really. The astronomical costs, logistical challenges, and human toll make it an unrealistic and unsustainable policy. Even if you agree with the idea in principle, the practical hurdles are simply insurmountable. That's why many policymakers on both sides of the aisle have shifted their focus toward comprehensive immigration reform. Solutions like pathway to citizenship programs, border security measures, and smarter visa policies offer more practical and humane alternatives. America's story is deeply tied to immigration. A path forward that reflects both security and compassion might just be the key to maintaining that legacy. So, what do you think? Is mass deportation worth the cost, or is it time to explore more realistic solutions? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to check out our other videos on immigration, US politics, and more. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit that like button and share this video with your friends. Thanks for watching Polytiks, where we make politics make sense. Until next time, stay informed, stay curious, and stay engaged.